Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Theresa Cantley. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the C-Suite Mentor podcast. With me, your host, Theresa Cantley, and I have a special guest here today. Oh my gosh, I forgot to ask you for the pronunciation of your name. I always do that before I hit the record button just so I don't butcher it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Elzie Flenard, correct?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay, yeah. Elzie. Otherwise, because my maiden name is Kaziski, and let me tell you, the amount of people that get that wrong.
Yeah.
But I've also had people get Cantley wrong too. So anyway, thank you so much for being on the show today. I am super excited to have you here. Elzie is also known as the mayor of Podcast Town, which I think we're going to get into that. He's going to explain what that means. But welcome, Elzie. Thank you for being here.
Listen, when I say I'm excited, I know it's proper to say that every episode and when you're on a show, but I am super happy to be here.
Awesome.
Smiling inside.
Awesome. I am super excited to have you here. Hold on a second. We were having setting issues in the beginning, and I just had a setting issue, and I was like, "Oh, don't go anywhere." All right. We keep it here. We keep it real here. We keep it totally real on this podcast. So stuff happens. Hopefully my dogs don't bark. But it's all good. So Elzie he's the mayor of Podcast Town. Like I said, he is an entrepreneur. He is a podcaster, a teacher, a creative, an author, and a rapper.
Former. I don't do those things anymore, but I have been on a stage and been paid US dollars to do it. So technically that means I'm a professional.
That is amazing. Did you ever perform with anyone?
No, I was always solo. But yeah, that was many, many moons ago. It's fun times though.
Fun times. Gotcha. So it's funny because I met Elzie. I thought it was, and I don't even know because I never asked you. I thought it was a connection with another guy who used to be a rapper, Jamar Jones. Mm-hmm. And I thought that I had met Jamar on LinkedIn, and I thought, because I connected with you at the same time, and I don't think I asked you, like, did you end up connecting with me from him, or was it just like a random thing?
I don't know. I don't believe in random, but yeah, it wasn't through him. It was just one of those things where the timing was really, really there. So
it was good. It was magical because I was going to Jamar's event and I'm walking through New York City and I'm laughing at myself because I cannot navigate the city. And I'm messaging you on LinkedIn and I forget what I had said. And I was like, oh my God, like we were messaging back and forth and it was just funny. Like, you know, Jamar Jones going to this event, I'm navigating New York City and I'm connecting with you. And I remember I had said, no, you have to be authentic with your audience. And I was like, wait a second, I sounded like I was shouting. I'm sorry, I wasn't shouting. And that was kind of like the start of a friendship.
Yeah. Our first experience is you scolding me. Yeah.
Yes, me scolding you. I can't help myself. I do it often, but
yeah, it's funny because I listened to a couple of your episodes, and I'm like, I gotta meet this lady. You're talking about just being you, and it's like, yeah, we're friends.
We're friends. And I'll tell you, every time I've talked to you, we laugh. And I love that because, especially in the things that are happening in our world and in our country, you have to have humor and you have to have good connections and good people who, you can talk to, you can connect with, you can share things. So I am just grateful that I got connected with you, whether it was Jamar, and if he's listening, whether it was him or not, or, it was a power above us, that connected us together. So tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us about Podcast Town and being the mayor, but tell us a little bit about how you got started besides being a rapper, because I
Mhm.
know the audience is just wants to know like the background.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll give you the abbreviated version. I have a very eclectic, cool mix of experiences in my life here. So I started out in I did a lot of R&B rap type of work, and I wrote my first song when I was about 5 years old. I thought that that was my purpose. I was going to be a well-known full-time musician. That's what I wanted to do. Um, but as life started to life, and I realized really early on two things: I wanted a family, and I wanted to own my own business. And so education was important to my mom, so I knew I wanted to do that to make her proud, and I ended up going into electronics. And I'll share this quick story with you on how that happened. I am the most strategically random person you will ever meet. It's like things just happen and they seem random, but then when I look back on it, I see how strategic they were at the same time. So I'm in 11th grade, 11th, 12th grade, and I had all the credits I needed to graduate. And so I had what they called like it's like a work study hour
Mm.
where you can
Mhm.
choose
Mhm.
to tutor or really babysit the younger kids or different things like that. And so I chose to do the tutoring, which was really me just sitting in the classroom. And if everybody was behaving, I'm sitting around doing nothing, right? And so one day they were behaving, everybody's doing their work, and I look over at the encyclopedias. Now, for those of you who are less seasoned than me, an encyclopedia is like Google, but in a book. Okay, so
The
that's all kind of information, pictures, and stuff.
the
But
Encyclopedia Britannica. We had the whole collection.
yeah, yeah, a lot of people don't know what that is. Okay, so
No.
there's two a bookshelf of encyclopedias, and I pick up the letter E, the book E, and I just start scrolling through it, reading it, and then I stop on electronics. And I start reading and reading and reading. And at the end of the class, I said, huh, I think this is what I'll do. So that's what I did. So at the time I was going to go to the army. Nothing wrong with the army, but for me, small town, I didn't know anybody who owned a business. I didn't know that I was smart enough or could afford to go to college. And so I was going to go to the army, but my sister was in the army, and she would come home for Thanksgiving and on breaks and when she was on leave, and she would start to impart on me this confidence and uh,
Mm.
this hope in me, telling me that I was smart, telling me that I had options, and eventually it worked. And so I went to my recruiter and I said, I've been thinking, I think I'm going to go to college for electronics. And this was what I call my watershed moment. This was my transformation moment. He looked at me, we were about the same height at the time, right in the eye, and he said, "You won't do it. You can't afford it." And it was in that moment where I decided that not only will I figure it out, but I will go to the college of my choice and I will excel. And so that's how that whole thing happened. So long story
Wow.
short, I ended up going into electronics, graduated my 2-year degree because I was trying my best, Theresa, to avoid English 101 and speech and all that stuff. So I just wanted to get to the point, right? Electronics, that's all I want to know. So life happened. The world was affected by 9/11, and nobody was hiring. And here I am, about 9 months from graduation, and the economy is at a standstill. Nobody's getting jobs, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the field where I was, where I was.
Yeah.
So at the time, my wife my brother-in-law, my sister, everybody in my circle is in college. They're at the University of Carbondale, Southern Illinois, Carbondale, and they're going to class, they're going to games, and they're living life. And here I am. I'm at home. I have a degree, right? But no job, no like I'm doing nothing.
Mm.
And one day we go to a basketball game, and I smelled the popcorn. I felt the excitement. And I'm like, is this what college students do? He's like, I'm going to college again. So I re-enrolled and got a bachelor's degree in electronics. And my wife and I moved to Wisconsin and started our life here, and had some kids. And this whole time, I'm working side hustles. I started a record label, a music production company, and all the stuff, trying to get to that second half of my goal, right? Because
Yeah.
I only
Yeah.
had two things. The wife thing was there, like the kids, got the family, but I was really working to start my own thing. And so one day, and this is fast forward 10 years, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is not working. Like, I can't figure it out. I tried all kinds of businesses. I owned a minor league basketball team, and I'm doing all this stuff. I'm working 80 hours a week, and my relationship is suffering and my health is suffering. And I got to
Mm.
the point where my body started to shut down.
A lot of
And
people go through that. Yeah.
yeah, and I go to the doctor, and she's like, if you don't stop, you're not going to be here much longer. And so I said, okay, I need to choose. I got to pick. And so I decided to bet on myself and start a podcast, because apparently there was something that those people knew who had started businesses that I didn't know, because I couldn't figure out how to make it work.
It's
And
magic. It's magic having the podcast. You are a business owner, you have a podcast. You're gold.
yeah, yeah. And so that was my strategy. I was going to interview business owners and ask them the questions that I needed to know.
So your strategy was to get business owners on the show so you can ask them what you needed to know. And so it was like you were interviewing them, helping them get their message out there, but at the same time interviewing them so you could learn.
Exactly.
Oof.
I would ask them questions like,
That's good.
what is an operations budget? What is zero-based budgeting? What is accrual accounting? What's cash-based? Why would you do either? Like
Did
questions
you
like,
ask them what EBITDA was?
oh, that was a good one, right? Because I didn't know. I didn't have time to go to college to learn that stuff, right? And so one day, one of my guests said, Elzie, you ask pretty good questions. You're curious, and you know how to do this whole podcast thing. You should help other people do podcasting. And I thought, that's an idea. Never occurred to me, because my only goal was to get the knowledge. So started Podcast Town, and here we are.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
know I lied a little bit. I said that was a 2-minute version, but I tried to cover all the stuff in that long.
I didn't have the timer on, so it's okay. This week I had a conversation with a client of mine, and he's like, I just need 5 minutes of your time. And I'm like, well, you took 57. So like that's not 5 minutes.
Well, there's a 5 in there.
There was a 5 in there, exactly. And a 7. Hey, I wanted to say, you went to that basketball game, and that was a college basketball game, right?
Yes.
Little known fact, and I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but I was a cheerleader in college for basketball.
Oh, okay. Where
For
about?
a team that actually, I went to fashion design school first, and the school that I went to, they actually had a really good basketball team, and they had gone into like March Madness was like a big thing with us,
Mhm.
and they were like in the tournament.
Nice.
Who'd have thunk? At the time, it was called Philadelphia University
Okay.
or Philadelphia College of Textiles and Science. That's what it was when I went there. Then it changed to Philadelphia University. But yeah, lo and behold, imagine that. I was a cheerleader. So
I don't think that's too much of a stretch.
no, spirit fingers. So you started podcast. It was Podcast Town. Was that the name of the business, or was that the name of your show, or both?
So the name of the show was Enterprise Now. We've since rebranded to Journey to Mastery, but that was the show where I started. And Podcast Town later became the business arm of that whole deal.
Gotcha, gotcha. So and I think you just alluded to this, you did pivot your business, because now, and I know you're going kind of through a pivot now. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Um, because I've been digging around your website, and I know when we talked, we had talked about, because I'm on your newsletter now. But
Thank
you had talked about, I was on your website, and the Master You, Master Purpose. So let's talk a little bit, because I've gone through it myself. I actually went through it this year, pivoting my business. And I think I've pivoted at least 3 or 4 times since I started my business a decade ago. Um, and I know a lot of business owners, they're afraid to pivot because they think it means failure, but it doesn't. It just means that you are either going into a different season in your life, in your business, or it could mean that you've completed this portion and now you're asking yourself bigger questions, which is leading to that pivot. But again, a lot of people look at it like a negative. So let's talk a little bit about your pivot and what you're doing now and how you came to that.
Wow, that is juicy stuff, Theresa, right? You said a couple of words in there that really made my eyes perk up, right? You talked about season,
Mm,
talked about desire, you talked about direction, right? Those are all things, to your point, where a lot of times as business owners, we get fixated into one direction, one thing. And to continue with the basketball analogy, a pivot doesn't mean failure. It just means that you're in triple threat, right? You can pass, dribble, or shoot, and the defense is blocking you from going right, and so you pivot and then you go left. And then if the defense blocks you from going left, you pivot and you go down the lane. Like, so for me, it's a matter of what is my purpose in this season of my life,
mm.
and what do I need to do to move and make sure that I'm walking in purpose and on purpose. And that's the whole of it. I absolutely love podcasting, both as an art, as a craft, and as a medium, because it is the thing that helped me fulfill the second part of my dream, right? I wanted
Mm,
a family and I wanted to do my own thing. Podcasting gave that to me, right?
yeah,
And so for me, it's
absolutely.
much more than just, it's popular and it's an industry that's growing. It's like, no, this is a thing that really impacted my life, and it'll impact my children and like, so for me, podcasting is a big deal outside of, it being a bigger and bigger industry. And so, to your point, I ask myself these questions periodically just to make sure that I'm continually in alignment, right? Like, what do I want to do? And I'm honest with myself. I
Simple question,
I
but
used to
so complex.
Yeah, and I used to lie to myself, right? I used to be like, "Well, it's okay." Like, no, what do I really want? What do I want? What could my business look like? What could my life look like if this is what I did every day?
Mm,
And the more I asked that question and the more I wrote it on my whiteboard — I have a million whiteboards — the more and more I realized that I'm on a journey to mastery.
ooh, I love that.
And and the way that Podcast Town was growing did not align with that journey to mastery. And so I had to look at what I was doing and figure out, okay, how do I throw it out completely, right? And just focus on this, or is there alignment between the two? And came up with the fact that there's alignment, right, for certain between the two, but I have to be very careful and calculated and randomly strategic on how we roll it
Love
out
that.
and
See,
how.
randomly strategic comes up a lot in your life.
Yes, yes, because again, I wasn't at the beginning of this year saying, "Oh, I think I'll pivot." No, that question never, or thing never crossed my mind. But as I ask myself the question, and I pay attention, I have this thing I call joy meter, and when my joy meter dips below an 8, I
Mm,
start paying attention.
mm,
Like, why is it a 7? today, this week, this month. It dipped to a 6.5 this week. Why? And the reason was I wasn't in complete alignment, right? My purpose in this season is to help other entrepreneurs master themselves so that they can master their purpose to master their business, right? So that
Mm,
they work with focus, clarity, confidence, and impact, right? And that's why you'll see, if you follow me at all, you'll see more and more focus on the podcast, Journey to Mastery, and the concepts, the 4 pillars of mastery, right? Podcasting is a part of that, a huge part of it, right? When you think about the message pillar, but it's not the whole thing. And that's the
sure.
shift, that's the pivot, the adjustment, if you will. It's like, okay, who is Elzie? He's the mayor of Podcast Town, host of the Journey to Mastery podcast, and author of Flame Starter, the Artist of Mastery.
Yeah.
Right? That's who he is. That's who he helps. So hopefully that answers your question in terms of the pivot, right, that we're going through, and what that looks like, and what it looks like will become more and more apparent as we roll things out. But that's the overarching strategy of it.
Yeah, what it looks like to me based on and I don't know what your 4 pillars are, but the one pillar you said was, message, right? Okay. So, if you just putting my coaching hat on here, what it sounds like to me, what you're doing is you're trying to help thought leaders, purpose driven entrepreneurs, master business and personal growth. So, helping these thought leaders or the people that you work with, helping them to really understand who they are from a whole self. That's kind of how I'm reading it. And what you do is you do that by helping them with these 4 pillars. I know a lot of people, especially in the coaching world, people get stuck on, I have to pump out content. I have to pump out content. I have to do this. Like, I'm a business, believe me, I was there. I'm a business consultant. I have to talk about business all day, every day. But they forget about who they are, like just who they are. And I think what they also do is they attach purpose to what they do and they miss that purpose is really who you are. And that's why your purpose is constantly changing. And that's why you have seasons. Because as you grow as a human, and that's one of the core motivators for human beings is growth. So as you grow, your purpose is going to grow. So to me, it makes complete sense in a randomly strategic way that your business, you are helping these purpose-driven entrepreneurs to really understand that purpose, that meaning, that those meaningful pursuits that they want to do, to use a podcast to get the message out, to even use a book or use their content or whatever. But again, helping them to go to that next level and understand that full self so that they can show up better whatever they're doing.
You nailed it. And I'll give you the other 3 pillars. Uh,
Okay.
so the first one is me, because uh,
Me?
me, yep, life has taught me that
Ah.
you cannot optimize what you give to the world unless you first optimize you.
Mm,
Don't know who you are. If you don't know who you are not, you get distracted, you get frustrated because you're looking at everyone else, you get stuck, you get all sorts of things, right? When you have not mastered you. So me is the first pillar.
mm,
The second pillar is mission. Focus and clarity on who you are called to serve in that season, right?
love that.
That's extremely important. Then we talked about message. So now that you know you mastered yourself, you mastered your mission. Now your message, we know we talked about that. And the fourth one is method. How
Method.
are you going to get
Like
your
as a method man,
method? Yep. how,
rapper.
how are you going to organize, right, your thoughts and your mission and your message? What operations are you going to use? Are you platforms, AI, like, how do you organize and methodically put together your business so that you can execute on your mastery. So
Yeah.
me,
I love that.
which method?
It's like me, mission, message, method.
Yep.
It's like a 360-degree view.
hmm I call
Instead
it
of looking at it from just one angle, you're looking at it from all angles.
the mastery circle that has pillars.
Mm,
I help
a
that.
mastery circle that has pillars. It's a table.
I
Just
like to
kidding.
do things that drive really smart people crazy. It's like, Elzie, it's a circle, can't have pillars. But my mastery circle has 4 pillars.
Hey,
So
you can do what you wanna do. You're the mayor of Podcast Town. So, you wanna have a if you wanna have a circle that's got pillars, you put pillars in there. If you want that circle to have curtains, you put curtains on there. You do whatever you want. You're the mayor. Come on.
but my circle's naked, Theresa. It doesn't have any curtains or things that cover. It's all out there.
Yeah. Hey, that's part of understanding who you are.
Yep.
And as a friend of mine, who is amazing, he teaches people how to think differently.
hmm
And he always says, and I've kind of borrowed this phrase from him. I said, Paul, I'm going to borrow this from you. But he always says, it's not about thinking outside the box. It's about burning the box down and just thinking.
hmm
And I was like, oh,
I love that.
that is good. That
Yes.
is good. So you're defining your own circle.
Yes.
Yes, and that's what we need to do. And, it's funny, like, we joke about it, but, that's really what people need to do, is they need to, because social media is just so bad with this, where you go on social media and you end up scrolling through and you seeing what everybody else is doing, and then you think you need to be the same way, and you don't. And it's, I always talk about building businesses from the inside out. And it's funny because we're taught at a very young age to build from the outside in.
hmm
So to look around you and see how people are, what people do, like what kind of cars people are driving, and then determine your own value or worth based on, what you see. And it's so backwards and leads to, a lot of the chaos that we see. It leads to a lot of the destruction that we see. I mean, social media is, yes, we need it. Yes, it has a lot of good points, but it just leads to this comparison and this, like, downward spiral in mental health. And, I think the work that you're doing is so needed to really get back to and help people to understand who they are from the inside so they can build whatever they want to build on the outside.
hmm
So I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Did I capture that right?
No, you nailed it.
Okay.
You nailed
Just making sure. Just making sure because it is your own circle.
it. With the pillars. Don't forget that part.
So tell me, what do you think, you've worked with a lot of business owners. You've interviewed a lot of business owners. What do you think people's biggest struggles are right now? Entrepreneurs' biggest struggles are?
Mm,
Just
I,
pick one.
I
There's
think,
probably 1,000, but just pick one.
yeah, I would have to go back to what we're talking about and really understanding who they are in that season because sometimes people, even the most experienced entrepreneurs, right? They've been running their business successfully for 15 years, sometimes 20 years, and they're running it the same that they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but they're not the same people that they
Mm,
were 15, 20. And it's so scary to even think about the fact that what you've built can't get you to the next 5 years. Like that is literally a scary thing,
that
right? It's
is
like, so wait a minute. So I've been building this for 7 years. And you mean to tell me now that because I'm different, because my passions are different, because my purpose is different now, I gotta pivot and do something else when the market is different, the world is different? That terrifies most people.
mm,
But I think that's the thing that most people need is
mhm.
a consistent evaluation of that mastery circle. Because the second you get through the method piece, now you're right back to the me part. And now you have to go through that whole cycle again and make adjustments as you go, which I think is the beauty and the burden of the journey.
Mm,
Because you never arrive, you never finish. It's a continual journey, and I think
yeah.
that's the work that most people, entrepreneurs, need to do more consistently so that they're in better alignment. Like, it's not a game changer if you're off a little bit, but 1 degree over 1, 2, 3, 5 years ends up becoming a big deal. So to answer your question succinctly, I think it's doing that mastery work consistently and being open to shifting when they need to.
Yeah. It's, I studied martial arts. I studied it for 17 years, and my master used to always tell us, "You're a student and you become a master, but then you become the student again." So you're constantly it's that yin and yang. You're constantly mastering something, and then you become the student again, and then you master, and then you become the student. But a lot of people think, and it goes back to that, one of the main things that people want is growth, but then they fight it
Yes.
because they think, "Oh, I've done this in my business. I've arrived," and then they stop, and then they can't figure out why they're miserable and why stuff isn't working or their business is going backwards. So you're right. Like you're constantly, it's that journey and it's learning how'd you say it was the balance between, I forget the word that you used. It's a balance between learning and then you got to start over again, or get mastering and then you start over and then you master and then you start over. But, and like I said, people fight growth, which I think is just like the craziest thing,
Mhm, mhm.
you know?
Well, I understand why people fight it. I was having a conversation, one of my interviews with Michael Rampolla, and we were talking about change.
Mm.
And my presupposition was that
Ooh,
pe
that's a fancy word.
was that people hate change. And he said, "Well, no, not really. People don't hate change. They just hate the way change is implemented and carried out. So I don't think it's that people hate growth. They just don't like the pain that comes along with the growth because
Mm,
growing hurts.
that's
No matter
true.
how you look at it, no matter what industry, what sport, if I go and I hit the weights hard today and I wake up tomorrow, it's gonna hurt. But you have to go through the pain before you can get to the glory. So
And
so
people
it's
wanna
like
avoid the pain.
yes, and it's just
Yeah,
unavoidable. If you wanna grow, it's unavoidable. You have
yeah.
to go through it.
And that, to speak to that, when you are going through or ready to go through a big transformation, it's painful. It's painful for a variety of reasons, but if you can stick with it, just like working out, you work out the first time and especially me, I'm approaching 50, like you work out for the first time with a new workout and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like I feel like my arms are going to fall off."
What
But
what's
eventually it starts getting not easier, but I mean, like you work through it, but it's the same like when you're going to that and you're called by a higher power to go to that next level, when you're called up to serve at a new level, it's painful. But if it wasn't, I mean, everybody would do it, right? And then like these amazing like people who are doing like these unbelievable amazing things, like everybody would be doing it. So but it really requires you to really stay connected and know who you are.
Mhm, mhm.
Because at the end of the day, no matter what is thrown at you, no matter those obstacles and those challenges, if you know who you are from the inside, you can figure anything out,
Mhm.
right?
And that's the power of that framework, right? When you think about it, even just using the exercise analogy, right?
Mm,
Me knowing what workouts work well for me, which ones don't. What's my mission? Like, why am I doing this? I'm really big on visualizing. So for me, it's like, okay, I don't want to feel exhausted after wrestling with my son. And so I visualize myself being able to, to wrestle around with him and play without being exhausted, right? And so when I'm working out, I have that visual. And then my message is, what am I telling myself? Am I, do I have stinking thinking, as they say, or am I encouraging myself? Am I surrounding myself with people who are pouring into me? Like, what is the messaging? And then the method is like, okay, build this into your day before you go to the studio. Go to the gym, do whatever you need to do so that it's mechanized and it's part of your day, and then you repeat the process. And, you go through mission, like so. In every aspect of our lives, that framework still works well.
Mm, I love that. I love that. And I think my next question was going to be, but I think you answered it, is where do you think that the biggest growth potential is for entrepreneurs right now? And I think part of it has to do with doing the real work on yourself. And when you do that, you can be more authentic. I mean, I just saw something, a friend of mine owns a social media agency, and she was saying social media is changing in 2025, and you have to show up like really as yourself and humanize it. Otherwise, like it's not, you're not gonna, attract new people, or your brand really has to be humanized. And so I think, based on what you were saying, um I think the biggest growth potential is for people to really connect to who they are.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, that allows you to be so focused and so have so much clarity that you literally become unstoppable because you know what's for you and what's not, and you know who you're who you're here to serve. It just makes you such a powerful entrepreneur when you have those things in place, so that you can make adjustments when you need to.
Mm, I love that. I love that. Um, so this has been like an amazing conversation. And I just have a couple like fun questions for you
Okay,
before we wrap it up and people can find out where they can find all your goodness, like all the goodness that you offer to the world. So, you ready?
I think so.
What's your favorite sport?
Basketball.
Ah, okay, of course. Of course. What are you most grateful for?
That's hard because I like to think I'm a pretty grateful guy. I'm most grateful for the opportunity to be.
Hmm, love that. What is something that people don't an interesting fact that people don't know about you besides the rapper?
Um, I can move my ears without moving my face.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Now I'm watching your ears. Oh my god, that's awesome. I've never met anybody who could do that.
I know, it's the thing. I think I'm gonna like do an event and charge people like $5 just to come see LZ move his ears without moving his face. I think
It's
it's
a new moneymaker. There's your new lead magnet.
there you go.
Who is your, like, favorite mentor to follow online? Like, who is that person that, like, really like, mine's Damon John. Who's yours?
Now, these are hard questions because there's so many. I love Myron Golden.
Mm,
I loved how he so eloquently and effectively infuses faith into purpose and into destiny and into entrepreneurship. I happen to believe entrepreneurs change the world, and what we do is so important. So he's one of the folks that I look at like, okay, he got it, and he's carrying the baton well for entrepreneurship.
yeah, a friend of mine, her and her daughter went to his event and met him, and she said he is like, what you see online is who he is. Like, there is no, I mean, some people, like, I know it's been my experience. I see some people online, I'm like, "Oh my god, they're amazing," and then I've met them and I'm like, they're not so nice, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But he is legit. And, um, and it's funny because right after the election, and I am not a political person, I don't talk politics or anything, but, right after the election, and you can believe what you wanna believe, I did a podcast because I felt so very strongly about it, all about it doesn't matter, like, presidents come and go, Congress comes and goes, and if you look at over the years, the people who have truly people who have built the country, people who have made the difference, people who have found, cures or invented new things are entrepreneurs.
Mm,
They are the ones that are going to change the world. They are the ones that are going to. That's why I believe when, change really starts, if we can change inside our business, we can impact what happens outside of our business, because entrepreneurs, like, especially if you can master yourself, you can really make a difference, a huge impact, and create that change that the world needs. So yeah, like, amen to that. I mean, I'm all about that.
yeah.
What's a big goal of yours that you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
Ooh, that is a loaded question. One of the things that I've been saying that's on my bucket list, so really there's two. I should say, learn how to play piano, because when I retire, when I'm so old that the only thing I can do is talk on a microphone as a 82-year-old podcaster, I want to use music to heal, right? And right now, I'm not good enough to do that, and so I want to do that. The other thing is I want to be able to get anywhere in the world when I want to. So I want to learn how to fly a plane. So if I want to hop in my plane and go to Texas, I can do that. Or if I want to hop in a plane and come visit you in person in 3D, I say, all right, Theresa, let's meet up on Friday. I can hop in my plane and I can be there. So those are the two things, right? That when I think about what are the things on a personal level, right? That in the next 5 years, what do I want to do? That would be the top one and two.
Love that. Love that. I have two here that I want to ask you.
Okay.
Now, okay. I'm going to ask you the one. What is your biggest accomplishment in life
My biggest accomplishment in life
so far?
so far would be becoming a successful husband and father.
Hmm. Awesome. How many kids do you have? Two, right?
So my daughter's 17. She'll be graduating high school this year. So she's not as much a kid anymore, but I have two and my son is 10.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been an amazing episode. And like I said, I am just so grateful that we connected online, and, we've had several conversations, and, we can't do this journey of entrepreneurship by ourselves. We need to have really good people who we can have conversations with or troubleshoot, or, even somebody to help lift us up. And you are definitely a person that lifts people up, for sure.
Well, I do my best, Theresa.
So tell everyone where they can find you.
The easiest way is LinkedIn. I'm always there. And then just go to my website, elzieflenard.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure that you check out Elzie at his website, elzieflenard.com. We will link that in the show notes, as well as we'll go ahead and link your LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well. Do you have anything coming up, with the business, any webinars or anything, book launches, whatever?
Yeah, one thing that I would want to mention, if you don't mind, Theresa, is I'm
Sure.
doing a 5-day mastery challenge. It's totally free. So if folks want to take the first step on mastering themselves so they can master their purpose in their business, that would be a fantastic way to do it.
Awesome. And what is the link for that they can sign up? Is it on your website?
So that is not on the website yet, but if you message me on LinkedIn, I will send you the link. Or if you go to my website and go to the podcast link, you'll see it there.
Perfect. Perfect. And we will definitely make sure that we link that in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. And for everybody who is watching this on video, or if you are listening to any place that you can listen to a podcast, I look forward to seeing you next week. And I just wish everybody a great weekend, because it is Friday at the time of this recording. And I also hope that we all take care of each other just a little bit more than we already do. So have a great rest of your week. Bye for now. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on this show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love, love, love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.